Thanks a lot for staying with Press TV as we now take a look at the American awakening occurring throughout the United States. We're joined now via satellite, from Washington by Webster Tarpley, who is the author of Surviving the Cataclysm, which is a book that focuses on the current world economic depression. And we're also joined on the phone from Richmond, Virginia by Phil Willeto, who is the editor of Virginia Defender and is also an author and anti-war activist. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us here on Press TV. Mr. Tarpley, I'd like to start with you, if I may. A significant amount of time has now passed since this movement has begun in New York City. I'd like to get a feel for what you think are the achievements of this movement so far.
Well, the big turning point came on Tuesday of this week. That was October 25th. And this was the day when the honchos over at Adbusters did what they had bitterly resisted doing up to now, which is to come out with some demands. And they declared that this coming Saturday would be a worldwide day of struggle for the Wall Street sales tax, what is also known as the Tobin tax, the Robin Hood tax, the financial transfer tax, and so forth. So this is the first time they have a real fighting demand, and it's an excellent demand. They were forced to do this by mass pressure. Now, as soon as they did that, they became a real threat to the power of Wall Street. As long as they had no demands, they were an object of curiosity. One could ignore them or talk about them or whatever it was. But once they had that demand, this became a real threat. And therefore, on Tuesday, we get massive police repression coming down in Atlanta, in Oakland, in Baltimore, and in other cities. I think the people involved should learn the lesson. As long as you had no demands, you were more or less left alone. But as soon as you do have demands, you become a real threat. I would recommend the time now is to escalate, not tactically, not fighting the police or some futile, stupid stuff like this, but strategically. And that means escalate your demands. You've got a Wall Street sales tax on the table for Saturday. Add to that a student loan amnesty paid for by the Wall Street sales tax. Add in no cuts to the social safety net. No to the 12 tyrants of the Congress, the super committee that are now planning behind the scenes how to flay the American people alive. You add in a stop to foreclosures, no more evictions, and add in the nationalization of the Fed to build infrastructure and create 30 million new productive jobs. There you've got a recovery. That's the program that Wall Street fears. Make Wall Street howl with these class-based demands. I think that's the lesson. And finally, we do have some kind of demands coming out.
All right, Mr. Willeto, I'd like to get your reaction to the things that Mr. Tarpley just spoke about. 2 points that come out of what he said, at least that they jumped out to me, was that he said that these protesters are now being essentially targeted because now they have a demand, as he pointed out, and secondly that that there needs to be an escalation of strategy, that things need to be added on to just this demand for the Wall Street sales tax, etc. Your reaction to that?
Well, I have a different view of the situation. I'm down here in downtown Richmond now at the occupation site, where several hundred people have been camped out in a downtown city square for going on 2 weeks now. It's right downtown amid all of the banks and the big, powerful law firms and so on. And I've been talking to people. As a matter of fact, I spoke with several this evening saying that I was going to be doing this this program with Press TV. And I asked them about the question of demands and so on. And I think we tend to look at these developments through the eyes of the past. And this is an entirely different type of movement. I think when you call it the American awakening, you really characterized it correctly. People are awakening to the fact that the system is not just broken. It's not just that there are problems with it that we can make demands on and they could be fixed, but the system itself is the problem. And so people are not demanding that specific things such as your guest suggested, all of which are very good demands, but you make them if you think the system is capable of meeting them. This milieu, which is spreading rapidly, is questioning the very foundations of the American economic and political system. They're talking about an entirely new system to replace it, and they're only beginning to think about that. It is an awakening, but it's not a reformist movement that's going to make specific demands and then be satisfied when those are met. I think it's far more profound than that, and it's going to take a while for it to develop.
Mr. Tarpley, Mr. Waledo there, made some very good points, and I'd like to ask you the question that jumps out from what he said. I mean, is the system at this point capable of even meeting any demands?
Voila. The Wall Street sales tax is the demand whose time has come. The stars are aligned. Germany wants it. France wants it. The Vatican wants it. The European Union wants it. The AFL-CIO wants it. The National Nurses United, the best fighting union we have in this country, they all want it. Who's against it? The centers of parasitism and speculation. Wall Street, meaning Obama, Geithner, Hillary, the City of London, with Cameron, with Osborne. That's the opposition. This is where you can win one. Now, I think there's a fundamental confusion in what your other guest is saying. These demands that I'm talking about are transitional demands. They are revolutionary demands. These are demands that fundamentally attack the nature of the system, as he says. The basis of the system today is that the working people pay for the Depression and the Wall Street fat cats make out like bandits. If that's the system, the Wall Street sales tax says no, that system is over. 1% of all transactions, and we're talking quadrillions in transactions, therefore trillions of revenue, into the federal treasury and into the state treasury. You want housing, you want public housing, you want, again, the student loan amnesty, do you want to maintain the social safety net, do you want Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment benefits, food stamps, where 46 million people depend on it, do you want S-CHIP, Head Start, WIC, do you want the whole array of programs? Wall Street wants to destroy those. We say no, make Wall Street pay. I don't understand the mentality of your other guest. He really seems to say, I like your demands, but I'm against all demands. I'm trying to show that this demand for the Wall Street sales tax is the one that makes Wall Street howl. It's the one that has made them crack down with armed police. Learn the lesson. They fear these demands. They hate and fear the Wall Street sales tax. Hit them again with new, powerful, class-based demands. Those demands are reformist or revolutionary, depending on the strength of your movement and depending on other conditions. But they are a fundamental attack on the nature of the system. I'd like to hear what's the alternative. And we need an alternative right now, because these things don't last forever. The cold weather is coming. The wind is chilly. The frost is on the pumpkin. The current phase will be over soon. We've got to get some demands on the scoreboard that we can build on during the winter.
Mr. Waledo, I'll give you the chance to respond to that. Mr. Tarpley spoke, covered quite a lot of ground there, speaking about, how what he spoke about are transitional and revolutionary demands, and he again spoke about the Wall Street sales tax, and essentially that has made Wall Street howl and react in this way with police brutality, etc. Your reaction to that?
Well, I understand the concept of transitional demands that you make on the system that it actually cannot meet, but are reasonable demands, and people's consciousness are raised because they slowly begin to see that the demands cannot be met within the confines of the present system. We're having a gathering in January here that we do every year, where we march on the state legislature, and we're demanding jobs, not war, and we're promoting certain bills in the assembly. So it's not that, I don't think that there's a role for concrete demands. What I'm saying is that this awakening that's happening is on a much more profound level. And it's not today where it's going to be tomorrow. I don't think it's going to disappear just because the cold weather comes in. I was up in Wisconsin this winter where people are having daily demonstrations of 100,000 people in blizzards. The weather is not going to be the critical factor. I wanted to address the question of why the police came down in cities like Oakland, Atlanta. There's been some others, and the cities where the most repression have been cities with large African American populations. And I think that far more dangerous than raising the question of a Wall Street sales tax is the fact that in some cities there's beginning to be communication and cooperation between the young white activists who initiated the occupations and the black community. Atlanta, the occupiers have renamed their encampment after Troy Davis, an African-American man who was executed by the state of Georgia, innocent, worldwide campaign to save his life, and he died, an innocent man, at the hands of the state. Oscar Grant was a man who was beaten to death in Oakland, California, and the occupiers had named their encampment after him. The question of race is fundamental in the United States political system and society, and there's tremendous revolutionary potential in this movement as it is developing. And I think that is the questioning of the fundamentals of the system and the involvement of the African-American community. And you see the militancy that has developed in these cities where the police have tried to shut down the occupations. In Oakland, they came right back out and marched 1,000 strong in the streets. They're not giving up. Again, I think this is a new developing movement in the very, very beginning stage. And for the people here, they're not concerned about the demand so much as the analysis. It is an awakening. And I think that those of us who think we understand the system would do well to try to support this movement in every way and not just criticize it and dismiss it as naive or a flash in the pan that's going to be gone tomorrow. I don't think that's helpful at all.
Mr. Tarpley, is that not a fair point, in fact, the fact that this is a new movement, and from what we have seen over, the past weeks and, in fact, months, that this is quite profound, isn't it?
Yeah, we have to move much faster than the other guest seems to think. The winter is coming. Right now, I would like to call people's attention to a candidacy. In Philadelphia, we have a lady by the name of Sherry Hankala. Sherry Hankala is running for Sheriff of Philadelphia, and she has a platform. It's a program of fighting class demands. No foreclosures, no evictions. She will not cooperate with ICE in racist witch hunts against immigrant workers. She will try to oppose the provisions of the totalitarian Patriot Act, which Obama has now embraced. And, of course, the terror against foreign workers has increased under Obama. But the main thing is, don't throw American families out on the street now in the wintertime. She's running for sheriff of Philadelphia. And I think this is a model for what should be done. The Tea Party got 75 people elected to the House and several senators. Where is this movement going? You say, oh, we have to wait to January, and then we're going to talk about our cultural movement. Joe Sixpack is out there. He needs solutions now. He needs a job. He needs health care. He needs to see a doctor. The most recent poll says 25% of the American people support Occupy Wall Street. 20% are opposed. Those are the reactionaries. That's the Tea Party. 50% don't know. Why don't they know? They don't know because there are no demands up to now. Up till Tuesday, there were no official demands. Now, thank God, we at least have one. Let's build on the Wall Street sales tax and create an actual transitional program, a program capable of creating an economic recovery and providing solutions to these life and death problems for working people. Everybody knows working people can't wait. They can't wait till January. They can't wait till springtime. They need those solutions now. They're looking for a powerful social movement that will get out there and fight for them. This stuff about the cultural reform, if you go to Joe Sixpack and say, we're proposing the reform of the human personality and a new form of utopian society that's never been seen on land or sea, you might as well go home.
Right, Mr. Waledo, again, some fair points brought up there as well. I mean, certainly people's patience will run out. And, as he mentioned, the statistics, 50% of Americans do not know at this point which side they side with. Is that not then a danger that there may be people who eventually will lose patience?